Hello everyone, this is the Czapp Árpád podcast, and today my guest is Sietze Wijma. He's a sensory scientist and he's the founder of the Art of Tasting. Welcome Sietze, it's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Árpád, and thank you so much for the introduction. I couldn't have said it better myself, so I'm really pleased with that.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. As we talked before we started the recording, I just discovered some of your videos, your educational content a few weeks ago. The first video was the one where you were testing if you can detect 1% Gewürztraminer in a neutral Chardonnay wine. That was so fascinating, so well put together, educational, fun and interesting. And I was really surprised that you could really detect 1% Gewürztraminer. Obviously, it's a very aromatic variety, but to detect 1%, I was surprised. We usually do lots of blendings, but such small percentages are rare to occur. What do you think? Was it like a very intense Gewürztraminer, very intense example, or what is?
I think it was pretty normal in terms of how intense Gewürztraminer can be, but I really like that you bring that up because originally I thought I'm gonna make a video which is going to be like a myth buster, right? Like, oh, you see 1% percentage in a blend and it really doesn't matter. And then we did the test and then it's like, actually it does matter, and it definitely makes a difference. So I was surprised as well with that video. But that's why you do the experiments for. You just keep an open mind and not think anything too much in advance. And you could get some really interesting results.
Yeah, that is really surprising, and I think it puts the whole wine industry and the variety labelings in a new context. Because, as you said, we usually ignore it. For example, a few weeks ago, I was tasting a Chateau Kirwan, and they are actually one of the chateaus from the Grand Cru Classier that use some amount of Carmenère, and it was like 4%, and I was like, 4%. That's probably nothing to worry about, but now knowing that even 1% can make a difference, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and of course it will depend on the grape. I've not personally tested Cabernet Franc or Carmenère, but that would be a super interesting one to do as well, especially because it can have that herbaceousness. Yeah. So it definitely has the potential to contribute, I feel like.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's get back to the beginning of your story. How did you start in the wine industry? Was it a special bottle, or was it a job that ignited your passion for wine?
So it's pretty much from like legal drinking age. I was interested why one wine tastes different from the other one, and the same thing with beer. I started working in a wine and spirits store. That was just a part-time job while I was studying, but it's always something that I enjoyed very much, and to the extent that it was like, okay, I'm gonna pursue a master in sensory science. So that is the study of flavor perception, and from there I did an internship with a company that produces flavor compounds. So it's like a commercial lab, and they can isolate aromatic compounds from wine and beer, and then use those for training purposes. And I was blown away by that method, and just so clean, it's so efficient, and I thought I want to apply this in the wine world because there's not that many folks that use it. Yeah, but so that's a long story short from beginning to where I'm now. So Art of Tasting is something I started 4 years ago.
I see. That's amazing. So that company was producing these samples for educational purposes, for schools, or?
Yeah, schools, universities, breweries. So they were very active in the beer world. Not so much active in the wine world. That's actually why I decided to start my own company. And you can apply the same thing with beers and wines. With beer, you pick a really neutral lager, you keep one glass as it is, and then you add some aromas or flavors to the other glasses. And same thing with wine, which, well, what we'll do momentarily, we will pour a neutral white wine and then make some flavor additions. And then it's really effective for smelling and developing your palate as well.
Yeah. What gap did you see in the wine industry? Why did you think that there is a need or a thirst of knowledge for such experiments?
I did the Wine and Spirit Education Trust courses, and then I did level 3 and 4. And already at level 3, they make mention of some flavor compounds. So they will say, Fino Sherry smells of acetaldehyde. And then you're left with, well, then what does that even smell like? And you do get some descriptors for it in the textbooks, but I don't think there's a substitute for really smelling acetaldehyde by itself. And then you'll find out what it smells like to you, which can massively vary from person to person. You're never going to find that out via a textbook. So that's one thing. And then there is also a bit of a lack of false education in my opinion. So I feel like that is very complementary to the existing wine education programs. So by no means a substitute, but it's something that I find is a really nice addition to what is already available.
Yeah. So you would say that most of your, like, the target audience is wine students and maybe even wineries, winemakers. I think with this fault approach, it can really be helpful to tone their senses.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So I've had wine students, sommeliers, and then the occasional winemakers will attend the course.
Yeah. The wine faults theme is, I think, really helpful because, as you said, it's a lack of knowledge in that, and I never ever saw samples or aroma compounds selected for wine faults. So I think that is really useful.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also something that most people won't even consider that it's a possibility that it exists, right? Yeah. Like, suppose you're I'm just going to make up an analogy on the spot, but suppose you're a medicine student and then somebody says, hey, you know what, you can actually learn a disease by taking this pill and it will make you sick with that particular disease for 10 seconds and then you can experience what it actually is and then it's over. Like, an invention like that would be like ridiculous, right? But that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, and people won't even are not aware that it's a possibility that you can just make aroma training samples on the spot. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Really cool. You often say that wine tasting is not a talent. What convinced you of that?
Oh yeah, and so when I carry out a training course, basically I present people with 10 different aromas and I explain what they are, how you can detect them, followed by a blind tasting activity. So then my participants leave the training room. I'm putting the glasses in a different order, and then they're going to come back in the room and they tell me, well, number 1 is vanilla, number 2 is cloves, number 3, and that activity, you can give yourself a score between 1 out of 10 based on how many aromas you named correctly. And when I first did that exercise, I got 3 out of 10. And I thought, I don't know how people do this. But by now I've become confident. I get the 10 out of 10 most of the times. And that was for me a confirmation, like, okay, I've actually improved in this. And I think anyone can get better at this. It's very much like if you're doing a sports, if you're a runner, and if you put in some time training and actually running, you'll get better. And it doesn't matter if you are very heavy, if you're very light, if you're tall, if you're small. I think some body compositions will make it easier for you to get better at running. But no matter what your starting point is, you will always be able to get better. You may not become world class, but you will definitely get better. And it's the same with training for wine smelling and tasting, in my opinion.
What was your learning curve getting from just 3 samples all the way to 10? What is the time frame of that kind of improvement?
I think with this method you can make some improvements quite fast, but I would say it's a matter of years before you become a lot more confident. And I don't consider myself a brilliant taster, and there's folks in the industry that they're definitely better than me, but at least I also have an idea of where I am. So, because like when you're starting your wine tasting career, I had the idea that I was one of the best smellers and tasters in the world because I was better than my friends. But then you start doing a wine education program and you're like, oh, actually, I was completely wrong. Like, I'm not any good. So you might, start with having a bit of a misunderstanding about how good you are. And then you compare yourself with the Champions League of tasting, if you like, and then you realize like, okay, I'm not actually that good.
Exactly. I think one reason for people that they are a bit held back from this and they are a bit scared of trying to understand smells and aromas because it's a bit like too abstract. It's not the usual thing that people do to try to recognize or like deliberate or name something that they feel. It's usually, is it good or is it not good? Like evolutionarily. We didn't really like evolve to dissect the aromas because most smells are pretty complex. And I think I'm not saying that it's unnatural, but it's unusual to try to smell a wine for a non-wine person who is just getting into the industry. And when you are asking them, try to describe, they are a bit like shocked. It smells like wine. And I think it needs a small learning curve to like tone your brain and try to like dissect the different aromas because you smell lots of things in the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that can be pretty overwhelming.
Yeah. What do you think? How much? I'm sorry.
Oh well, yeah. I was just thinking out loud. Like, suppose you're taking an athletics class and you're being put on the rings, and then they tell you, "Oh, this is how to do an iron cross." And then obviously, if you start with that, like you can't do it. And that's pretty much like how it would probably feel. What you're describing, like if you're tasting wine for the first time, feels impossible and feels so overwhelming. And then I can totally see why people give up because it's just too much.
Yeah. I think it's even more complicated than that because you can at least show them how the iron cross looks, but to show them how what happens in your brain when you dissect the aromas, it's pretty hard to show. What do you think? What is the effect of the previous experiences of a person on recognizing smells? Usually they say that if you are like more gastronomical, try lots of different foods, lots of spices, that helps a lot.
To some extent, and I would always encourage people to try new things, but in reality, there's only a limited set of aromas that is going to be really useful for wine description, right? Yeah. So if you are very comfortable at picking up cumin, for example, if you're not really familiar with that smell, I don't use the term cumin at all when I'm tasting wine, and I don't personally think that it's a very useful descriptor. So, okay, amazing if you can identify cumin or an aubergine with a blindfold, but I don't think that those are terms that you're using in the world of wine. So it's more important to find the terms that are going to help you. So green bell pepper, really important. Vanilla, really important. And also know how they show themselves in wine. Because I feel like with a green bell pepper, it's like an actual green bell pepper is slightly different from a wine with a green bell pepper aroma, if that makes sense. So yeah. I'm not sure if that's a substitute for training. Might give you a small advantage, but in my opinion, not a huge advantage.
So there is no like smell diagnosis muscle that can be trained with other aromas, and then you become good with picking up like new ones, or maybe it is.
There are you can do tests like how sensitive you are to certain smells, but still, I don't think that is massively deterministic of how good you can get.
Okay, I see. When you said that the aromas show up in a different way, this year I had a very shocking experience with bread. So we all know bread, and it can have this barnyard character, but I never had like a really barnyard experience. This year I was judging at the Concours Mondial de Bruxelles in China, and we had a red wine sample that I was absolutely blown away. It was like stepping into a barnyard. I'm not even exaggerating. I was so shocked. I couldn't believe it. It was like exactly like just stepping into a huge barnyard with horses. You couldn't feel anything else. It was so intense. I was blown away. I didn't expect that it can be such an intense and overwhelming aroma.
Wow. I would love to use that wine in my training courses.
I think you could distill it to lots of aromas. Maybe you wouldn't even have to distill it. It is already pure bread compound.
Pretty much. Would you like to make a start maybe with some trying some aromas?
Yeah. Exactly. What do we do?
So I think you've found yourself the 3 identical glasses. They can be any type. It's definitely preferred to have like a tapered glass, like most wine glasses are.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, these will do just fine. And then I'm gonna ask you to pour some wine, and I suggest about 50 milliliters, so like a tasting portion, something you would get during wine courses as well, like something like that. So since you've got a wine bottle and you're going to pour a total of 11 samples, one wine bottle should be enough. So it's like 550 milliliters in total, and then you can pour the 3 glasses straight away. So you can do 3 pours.
You suggested that we should use a neutral style of wine. You're going to use my own wine. This is a Király Lányka local grape variety from here, from our wine region, Székely. It's pretty neutral wine, so I think this would be really interesting, especially in this context, tasting my own wine with these extra compounds, trying to recognize them. Okay, so we have the 3 glasses.
Cool. I think the grape said something like Feteasca. How do you pronounce it?
Yeah. The Romanian name is Feteasca Regala. The Hungarian name is Király Lányka.
Oh, okay. And is that considered a somewhat neutral grape variety?
Yeah. I think one of its ancestors is Gouye Blanc, so it's somewhat related to the Chardonnay family.
Okay, like really old school, very old heritage. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm using an unoaked Chardonnay myself, so something pretty neutral as well. These are both great options. I've also used Pinot Grigio, for example, or Iran, like a local grape in Spain. It's pretty neutral. So as for the instructions, you're gonna leave 1 glass as it is, so that's gonna stay unchanged. And then you're going to pick up the vial that says number 1.
Number 1, okay.
And so it contains a liquid inside.
Yeah.
You're going to, so you have the hat on top, which you're going to squeeze. So like this. Yeah. And that will, so there's a pipette inside the vial. So by squeezing, you're pulling up the liquid inside the pipette. And then next up, you're going to unscrew the top.
Okay.
Probably close it pretty firmly. Okay, nice job. And then you're going to take that out and then put it above the wine glass and squeeze again. So that will release all of the liquid.
All of it?
Yeah, all of it. So you're not gonna count drops. It's just like the whole volume of the pipette that goes in the glass. Great. And then you're gonna put that back in, like this. Yeah. And you can put that back in the box. And let's do the number 2 straight away. Okay. So once again, like squeezing the hat.
Yep.
So that the liquid goes into the vial, unscrew it. And then with the final glass, you're going to have the pipette above the glass, squeeze, release all of the liquid.
Yep.
And then put the closure back onto the vial.
Okay.
And then put that back. And this dissolving is pretty fast, but you can do just a quick swirl, and that's enough for it to dissolve. Okay. So let's start with the reference wine. So let's give that a smell, just to kind of tell us that this is what white wine smells like, if you like, just a point of comparison. And let's taste it as well. Then let's move on to the next glass. So that's the one where we added number 1.
Wow.
And just to make it a bit easy for you, so that is, by your reaction, I can already tell you're picking up something. But that's the smell of green bell pepper that I've already mentioned. So that is going to be the main descriptor. There's some other things that I've heard when people describe this wine. I've also heard tomato leaves, for example. So like the green parts of the tomato plant is also a relatable smell. Green beans. So uncooked green beans, there's just various green things that this can potentially remind you of. Let's go ahead and taste it as well. So you'll probably also experience that green bell pepper on the palate.
Yeah.
Now, these samples are safe to smell and to taste. So they are all prepared in such a way that you can add them and then the wine is safe to taste. The reason that's possible is that these are the compounds that also naturally exist in wine. And I've also created the dosage in a way that it represents what a real wine could do. So this potentially a Sauvignon Blanc can have this much.
Oh, really? So this amount can have this much?
Totally. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it will be on the higher end. So to be precise, it would be 60 nanograms of addition that you've made if you've just used the single pipette volume. And that is what Sauvignon Blanc can do in like a cooler year, cooler vintage, earlier picking. Yeah, it can have this much.
Wow, that's interesting. I would say I probably never had this intensity of this green bell pepper note.
Okay, yeah. It could also be that the base wine by itself is somewhat neutral, so then aroma like this jumps out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Whereas in a Sauvignon Blanc with some other aromas there to sort of support this, you might not perceive it as intensely. Yeah, but this is, I agree, this really stands out.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe the temperature as well, because this one is kind of room temperature as you suggested, but Sauvignon Blanc, when we drink it a bit cooler, maybe that is also affecting the perception, or at least the evaporation.
Yeah, it could have an effect. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I've already pretty much covered where this aroma comes from. So in the context of white wine, it's going to be Sauvignon Blanc only. So Chardonnay doesn't make it, Riesling doesn't make it, and then there's a climate effect as well. So the cooler the conditions, but also the more shady the conditions, in other words, less sunlight exposure, will result in greater levels of this particular compound, which is called, it has a pretty long chemical name, isobutyl methoxypyrazine. People often just say pyrazines when referring to this flavor. It's a little bit easier to remember.
Yeah.
And so it's you could classify that as a primary flavor as well. So primary flavors are those ones that develop either in the grape or during fermentation. It's a classic primary flavor from Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah. Is it the same compound that can develop in the Carmeneres as well?
Yeah, spot on. So there's several red grape varieties that can also produce the same compounds, resulting in a similar sensory experience. Carmenere is one of them.
Right.
Would you be able to name the other two? There's like two other main ones.
Cabernet Sauvignon can sometimes in cooler years.
Yeah, totally.
Cooler years.
Yeah.
I don't know what is the.
And then there's the Cabernet Franc, so they're related to Cabernet Sauvignon, which can also make that green bell pepper smell.
Wow, this is really interesting. So intense. I think the fact that you highlighted that these are the same compounds that can appear in wine. This fact is really surprising for a lot of people when they are starting to get into the wine tasting. This I always tell everybody this when they are like especially the more skeptic ones, when they are listening to a bit more snobbish wine sommeliers or people talking about wine, oh, some cherries, some bell pepper, and they are like confused. How is it bell pepper? It's made out of grapes. It should taste like grapes. And when you tell them that no, actually there is a common compound and it can smell like bell peppers, I think this clarifies a lot. And
Spot on. And you are right. If you analyze a green bell pepper, you're going to find the exact same compound.
yeah, I think this is very fascinating. Even for me, when I was studying and found out these things, it cleared out so much, and like it makes it so much more straightforward. So it's not like subjective. It's not like opinions or I smell this, you smell this. Obviously, there are differences in our perceptions, as you said, but there is a chemistry behind it that is like objective.
Totally, yeah. And I like that you mentioned objective. There's not many many situations where people connect the term objective with tasting, but I think it can be done objectively. Yeah. You could even go one step further, and they've looked at the DNA sequence of Chardonnay and of Sauvignon Blanc, of various grapes, and then you see a particular part in that DNA of Sauvignon Blanc that corresponds with the DNA of green bell pepper. So it's like a particular part in that DNA that codes for synthesizing this compound.
This aroma compound, amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's they've really done their job. Yeah. Let's move on to the next glass. Have you tried the next glass already?
No, not yet. Let me freshen up my palate with the... Okay, let's see the third one. Okay.
So I'm not going to be so generous with this one. I'm not going to reveal straight away what it is. So maybe you can have a shot. I consider multiple correct answers.
It's definitely some tropical vibe to it. Maybe not pineapple. It's like a very fruity tropical Chardonnay.
Yeah. Good start.
Some melon, pineapple.
You're going in the right direction.
Tropical fruit, definitely. What is it?
Passion fruit. So that would be the main way to describe this. Grapefruit is another one that I hear very often. Guava, if you know what guava, if you've tried guava, it has the same type of aroma. Elderflower is also another descriptor here.
Okay. Yeah.
And then one of my favorites, cat pee. So there's that cat pee element to it, which not everyone picks up, but if you have a cat at home and you're familiar with like the cat litter box smell, this is the same thing. And I mean, if you hear that, you're probably like, that does not make any sense. Like passion fruit, cat pee, how can it be the same smell? But remember that you're smelling individual molecules here, and those molecules can be part of different smells. Every smell in our daily lives contains multiple different compounds.
Okay, it's a composition. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So passion fruit, like the actual passion fruits contains more than one compound. It contains this, but also some other ones, and that makes it the unique passion fruit smell. But not all of these compounds are present in wine. It's just this specific one. It's called 4-MMP, and it is actually another sign of it's another flavor of Sauvignon Blanc. So this is the Sauvignon Blanc is the only variety that makes this.
Yeah. So this compound is the one that always responsible for the cat pee aroma, because for me I feel more of a like tropical fruit side. But I had a few Sauvignon Blancs that were like I don't have a cat, but I could tell that cat pee style. Maybe this can be explained based on the base wine, that this style jumps out more.
There might be a base wine effect. There is also a concentration effect. So if you get even more of this, it might resemble more of that cat pee aroma. But it's also reflective of like what you've most recently smelled. Now, I'm not getting the cat pee aroma all the time. I don't have a cat myself, but if I've like recently smelled that and it's sort of fresh on my memory, then I'm smelling this combination. Oh my god, yeah, that's cat pee. So it's also very much what you're most recently exposed to.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you explain that effect when people are trying to detect a smell and they are like on the cusp of getting it but can't really name it, and then you tell them and then they say that, oh yes, that's what I'm feeling. What is the explanation for this? Because this happens all the time. That, okay, what is it? I don't know. Then you tell them and it makes sense.
So I guess you're asking, why didn't they get it in the first place? Why didn't they name the aroma without my help?
Yeah, because after they focus on it, it's so clear.
It's kind of like that effect that in psychology they call the butcher on the bus, which is like if you enter the bus and you might see a person and you're like, oh, I've definitely seen him before, but I can't quite place who it is. And then you realize that it's the butcher, so where you always buy your meat. But because he isn't wearing his professional gear, like he's not wearing his apron and everything, you don't identify him. And I think in wine there's something similar going on, because we don't have the cues that you would, like the hints that you would otherwise get if you're smelling a passion fruit. There's no passion fruit color here. I can't see the seeds. I can't see the skin. I'm not feeling a passion fruit, right? And so without all of these sensory cues, it then becomes really difficult to identify. Similarly, like when you see the butcher on the bus, you're not in the actual store where you buy the meat, so you don't have those assistants like the other things you need to identify. So that's probably the closest explanation I could give.
Yeah, it's too much out of context.
Yeah, context. Yeah, that's exactly the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Recently, I discovered a guy on YouTube. He's like living on different tropical islands, traveling, and he's showcasing like tropical fruits that like no one ever heard of. And it's not just me. I was looking in through the comments, and in every single video he's like showing 5 new fruits that like mind blowing, like this exists. And this makes me think like it would be so cool to experience and try all of those and try to learn all those aromas, because maybe we could discover other like correlations and similar compounds, because as he is describing them, all of them are like so unique. So probably there are lots of other compounds that we could like find and discover, and more descriptors into the wine world, because who knows?
Yeah, totally. It's probably like only the tip of the iceberg that we've identified. So somebody sent me a message the other day like, I always pick up rambutan when I'm tasting Gewürztraminer, and it's this like fruit that's kind of closely related to lychee, but it looks quite different. It has like hairs or in spikes coming out of the skin.
Oh yeah, I think how it looks.
So I thought, okay, I'm gonna find some rambutan, and I tried it. It's like, wow, this is exactly Gewürztraminer. Like it's, yeah. I thought that was a spot on descriptor.
That's interesting. You always talk about these the cultural context of recognizing aromas, just as this example showcases that some people maybe the same aroma reminds them of something different because they have different gastronomy. And how did you see this with your tour? You had almost like a world tour of courses, and how did you see these experiences play out?
Yeah, totally. And we can take this example that we've just tried. So the number 2, which is, if I run courses in the UK, most people say elderflower, but it's definitely a flower that you see in countries like the UK, but it doesn't really appear in like really warm parts of the world. So when I was running this course in the Dominican Republic, for example, so the island in the Caribbean, and I mentioned elderflower, which I mean, even in the Spanish translation, which is something like Flor de Salsa or something like that, they had like, I've never even seen these things. Don't know what they smell like. So that's a useless descriptor for them. But then guava or guayaba in Spanish, that was the descriptor that resonated with them much more. And I've also, with this particular one, I had somebody from Korea participate in the course, and I've not been there myself, but it was somebody who participated in a course in UK, I think, and they said it smells of Gyeolmyeongya, which is apparently this type of seed that they use in tea. It's like this herbal tea, and apparently it has exactly the same smell. So this is just a compound that it doesn't have any predetermined smell, right? It will just remind you of whatever it is that you've smelled this compound in before, and that can be a lot of different fruits or vegetables.
So cool.
So these are both Sauvignon Blanc smells. So just a quick explanation of how they differ. The left one, so the green bell pepper, is more connected with cooler climates, slightly less ripe grapes. And the passion fruit is more like slightly warmer conditions, more sunlight exposure, and perhaps slightly later picking. So that's when the Sauvignon Blanc produces more of these smells.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the interesting thing is to blend these together. So hopefully you're ready for this. So we have the two glasses here, and I'm going to ask you to pour one glass into the other. And then give that a smell. That is very much the smell of what I associate with a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. So you've got both the green bell pepper and the passion fruit, and it's exactly like something like a cloudy based Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. For me, I think the green bell pepper is a bit stronger. It overwhelms it a bit. But it could be that maybe there was a bit less wine in the or less.
That would be one explanation. The other explanation would be that you are perhaps a bit more sensitive to the green bell pepper smell. Based on your reaction, it could be that is a compound that you're quite sensitive to. The way that I'm formulating these samples, I get feedback from people that do the exact same thing what you just did. So they tell me, okay, for me the green bell pepper is more intense, or for me the passion fruit is more intense. And then I've balanced it in such a way that usually half of the people will say passion fruit is more intense for me, and for the other people they will say it's green bell pepper. So it's pretty much, it's more likely to be reflective of how sensitive you are to this smell. Okay, let's empty it.
Okay.
So we should have two empty glasses now, and we can
Let me
re-pour.
switch them.
Okay, you're gonna get some new ones. It's perfect. Yeah. Wonderful. So 2 new portions of wine, and then let's pick up 3 and 4,
3 and 4. Okay.
and we will add it.
Okay. So number 3.
Yeah. So yeah, squeeze the top so that the pipette is filled with liquid. Pull it out. Empty it above the glass.
How many portions are there in the
15.
15? Oh, okay. So you can really do a exercise.
Yeah. So there's basically 2 ways you can do it. So the way that we are using it now is preparing samples by the glass. The other way you could do it is if you have the full pipette, you can just empty that into 1 wine bottle, and that will also give you 15 portions. So which is much better if you're training for a group of people. So if you have like 10 colleagues or 10 friends or whatever, you can just make the addition directly to the bottle. You'll need many more bottles. You need like 11 bottles, but then from the bottle you can just pour into all of the glasses, which is a bit faster when you're working with a larger group. Yeah, but For if you're just using it for yourself, then the pipette is useful.
Yeah, very cool. You have 3 types of samples, right? I mean, 3 types of collections.
Totally, yeah. So there's 3 themes, and the one we are trying now are the white wine aromas and flavors. We have the same for red wine, so I call them the positive aromas, so like the desirable aromas or flavors. And then I have a set of wine faults. So in short, like white wine flavors, red wine flavors, wine faults. Those are the 3 kits that I do, and they have 10 files each.
Well, I would recommend to our followers to check it out because it's both fascinating. It's a fun experience. I'm already like excited to try the next one, but it's really useful if you are in the wine industry in any like position. This is really useful to like tone your senses. So yeah. Okay, so let's try the flavor 3.
Yeah, nice idea. Yeah, and also I think the pace that we're having on this podcast makes it so that people can probably participate along if they have a set of themselves. I think that's a nice way to make it more interactive. Yeah, number 3.
Okay.
You can get points for naming the correct aroma, for which there's multiple options, the grape variety to which it belongs, and then if you're super geeky, you can even try to name the aromatic compound, so the name of the molecule.
Well, first of all, I think the most direct idea that jumps out, it's a bit like Gewürztraminer Muscat kind of vibe, like flowery, very like perfumed.
Okay. Would you be able to narrow that down to a specific flower?
Well, probably the rosy aroma of like a rosy Gewürztraminer. That's what I would say.
Fantastic. So full marks. And so well done. And also like, as I mentioned before, I'm always interested in hearing like local descriptors. So if you think like, oh, there's this specific plant that I have in my garden here that smells like this, or there's something that we have for breakfast in Romania that that reminds me of this, then by all means do let us know. I think that's really valuable information.
I think it's mostly what is jumping out, this perfumed like I'm not sure if I would try to guess the compound. Is it linalool?
Ooh, very, very close. So you're in the same group of compounds, which are known as the terpenes. So terpenes are like a family of compounds. Linalool is an important one. This one's called geraniol. So that's the other main, one of the other main terpenes.
Yeah.
But that's very close. And linalool smells quite similar, actually. It's has a similar aroma profile. The other aspect about this smell, so I think that rose, that floral scent is brilliant. There is a citrusy aspect that people comment on. Not so much like juice, not so much lemon juice, but more the skin, or like an aromatic citrus, if that makes sense. So bergamot is something that I've heard before, which is also a popular flavoring in Earl Grey tea. So those are some other like lesser used descriptors, but equally suitable to this compound. So like rose, bergamot, I hear limoncello as well, for example. So that's like the aromatic side of citrus.
Some type of like a mandarin or orange peel. What was like a bit, yeah, definitely some citrusy.
Okay, yeah, totally. Orange peel, mandarin peel. I can totally buy into that.
I wasn't sure about the citrusy aromas because the base wine has the slight citrusy character, and I wasn't sure if it's that or is it some coming from the flavor as well.
I have a different base wine, but of course lemon is such a prevalent descriptor. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was. If we are going to rate like our preferences of these aromas, probably this one is my favorite up to this point.
Oh, nice. Okay, amazing. Yeah. Yeah, and I think many people will back you up. Will second that. Yeah, it's a nice smell. Want to try number 4?
Oh, now I'm picking up a trend here. Is the trend that they are like the same grape variety? Like you said at the beginning that the first two were like Sauvignon Blanc. Now I would say that these two are both kind of like Gewürztraminer area.
Yeah, with the so far that has been the case, and there's compounds that occur together.
I think this one is something similar. I mean, for at least the same context, like from the memories, it's also like a Gewürztraminer style, but it's more like sweet, or I don't know how to describe the smell of sweetness. It's a bit more fruity.
Fruity. Let's carry on with fruit. So there's like, would you say tropical, stone fruit, maybe citrus fruit?
Yeah, all of those. Well, if I would guess in this, it's more of like an intuition, or how did you say it? It really has this like Gewürztraminer character. So I would guess that this is probably that typical compound should be that like the lychee. But for me, is it that one?
Awesome. Yeah.
Is it?
Well done. Yeah.
But for me, it's like a different type of lychee, or maybe this is because of the like Gewürztraminer, as we said, has lots of other compounds, and that brings that together. But for me, that Gewürztraminer lychee is like a different style. Here, I pick up that like the beginning of it, but then it has a different style. Maybe this is just because of the base wine, but it's really interesting.
This smell is almost like half lychee, half floral.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's probably the best description.
Yeah. I used the descriptor lychee for this one also just to tell the difference with the rose smell in number 3, but they are somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're both terpenes, so they chemically are closely related.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. What do you think? Can the aroma like influence the sweetness perception? Because now, as I've tasted it, for me, it feels like it seems a bit sweeter than it was originally. Can it influence it, or?
Absolutely. So all of these sensory impacts, they sort of add up, right? And they become this overall impression. I think a nice distinction here is also to distinguish taste and flavor. And they mean slightly different things. So taste is more like a basic taste sensation. So we've got sweet, sour, bitter, salty, umami. And then flavor is the overall impression, which combines taste and aroma. So it's like all of your senses together, which contribute to flavor. And totally, like this would probably be an aroma that you have in the past seen in sweet contexts. So in other words, you've tasted something sweet and then this aroma was there at the same time. So in your mind, you've built that link between this and sweetness. Does it affect the actual, is it picked up by taste receptors as sweet? No. And that is something you can confirm by eliminating aroma from the flavor sensation. And how you do that is by pinching your nose. I'll have you do it. We're going to go back to the reference wine and let's pinch the nose and try it. And you want to keep your nose closed, spit, and then release your nose. Okay? Brilliant. So when you're pinching your nose, you're not getting any of the fruitiness, you're not getting any citrus-like aromas, it's just the basic taste sensations. And then we can do the same thing with the final glass. So we'll pinch your nose and taste it. And while we have our nose closed, you'll notice there's no difference with the reference wine. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
When you release your nose, then that aroma comes back.
Yeah.
So it's perceived what you would call in scientific terms retronasally. So there's aromas present in your mouth that enter the nose via this connection between the back of your mouth and your nose. And this will also contribute to that sweet sensation that you get. And similarly,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, and there's also aromas that are connected to sourness. So, for example, tomatoes, vinegar, like those citrus, lemon as well. It's like aromas that we link to sourness. Sometimes you get bitterness. So if a wine smells like coffee, it might become that you might experience it as slightly more bitter because these are all aromas that we've connected with certain taste sensations.
Yeah, makes sense. And here too, because Gewürztraminer is a variety that can create sweet wines, so it can make this association.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it can have residual sweetness. Yeah, it can have residual sugar. Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
So to wrap up, the one on the right, the lychee, you only get that in Gewürztraminer, sometimes in Muscat, but it's like exclusive to those grape varieties. And then the rose one, you get it in Gewürz, Muscat, but also to some extent in Riesling and Viognier, for example. So like the semi-aromatic grape varieties, they can also produce geraniol, but they won't produce the lychee compound. So there's a small difference in.
What is the name of the lychee compound?
It's called rose oxide, actually. And I realize it's kind of
Oh, just to make it more confusing.
confusing, yeah. And usually the names are after where it was initially discovered in, but not necessarily what it smells like or what it or which grape variety it is found in. So it's like historically somewhere in the 1950s, somebody identified the geraniol and geranium grass, and they said, okay, let's call it geraniol. But I don't hear anyone saying geranium when they smell this wine. So, but the name is not necessarily what it smells like. Well, we can mix them together.
Let's mix. Then we get a nice Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I feel like this smells a bit more realistic, Gewürztraminer.
Yeah. Wow, this is so fun. If I would have got this wine blind, surely I would say this is Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Even from Alsace, directly.
Yeah, and it's also like if you taste it, it's almost like your mind is filling in the blanks. So it almost feels like it has more body. It feels like there's some residual sugar. It's like your mind, yeah, kind of compensating. Yeah. Okay.
Very cool. This is also, I think, a nice context for the wine industry, that if a few compounds, a few stylistic choices are like really representative, then the mind can adjust it or pair it to a certain region or a certain style. This could be like an interesting thing to think about as winemakers when you are targeting different price categories or styles, or just to remember it that. And maybe everybody already does it with the barrels and everything, so it's probably not a new idea. So we can't get this aroma in any other like popular grape varieties, just in those hybrids, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Vitis vinifera doesn't produce it.
Okay, yeah. That's why when I smelled it, it was like it's something different. It's like not a usual wine compound.
It's not unpleasant, but it's also not. Yeah. It's not the most complex smell, right? You're not like you don't associate it with high quality wine. I can see why people maybe want to avoid working with hybrids or like Labrusca grape varieties for this reason.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever tried wines from these varieties that had this smell originally from the grapes?
Yes, and it's not very easy to get commercial examples. But in Austria, you have an example called Uhudler. So this is like a historic wine style with some grapevines that like have been planted around when phylloxera was an issue. So they thought, okay, we'll just plant American varieties to work around this disease, and it's reasonably enjoyable wine, and it has this type of flavor in there as well.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think it's exported, so you would need to buy it in Austria.
That's why I was wondering, because in the EU, most of the places it's banned to have Labruscas. In the US, as far as I know, as almost everything is allowed in the US in the wine market, and they have it. So I would like to try some of those to compare. In Hungary, in Romania, we also had a few hybrids that have been planted in the communist era. It was very easy to plant them. Doesn't need grafting, doesn't need anything. They were just sticking in the ground, and it was like huge yield, everything. But we had mostly the Noah varieties, which have intense Labrusca aromas, but not this one. Probably this compound is not present because this is very, very foreign to me. It has like that, I don't know what is the exact compound, but it has, we recognize it all the time. But it's different. It's a different Labrusca style. We also have like a few grapevines just as an experiment, as like a traditional wine style. We make a few liters for like our own consumption and just for like an experiment because it was so popular back in the day. My great grandfather even liked it, but nowadays it's banned, so it's not commercially available, and it wouldn't even make sense to make larger amounts of it, but just for fun, it's like an experiment.
Yeah, and I think in many countries it's like that. So some people would have it in their garden and they will make some wine themselves, but it's not like available on the shelves.
Yeah. But I heard that there are lots of action around hybrids, and like specific legislations are considering it. In some places, I have a winemaker friend who's helping to plant some vineyards in Poland with hybrid varieties. So there are maybe, obviously, it's also a huge market, and a huge, not market as consumption, but a huge scale of different hybrids and new varieties. So maybe there are like more nuanced, more like complex ones as well. It's interesting.
Cool. Have you tried number 6?
No, it's wow. Okay, now I have that feeling that it's a very typical aroma. I know it, but it doesn't come to my mind. Let me think. Wow, it's so intense. Wait a minute. It's really intense, really familiar. It's also has like a tiny... okay. Is this another like bit artificial?
It is very artificial, very much. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like some fruit juice, pineapple juice.
Good shot. Okay, love it. Yeah. The term I go for is artificial pineapple. So spot on.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah, that is exactly artificial pineapple juice. It's like the cans, but not like the real fruit. It doesn't have this punchy.
Like tinned pineapple. I think that's a good shout as well, indeed. I've also heard descriptors of other fruits. Some people are like, oh, actually I pick up apple juice, or I pick up banana, like artificial banana. So it's a bit what I would call indistinct. Like it is fruity, but it's kind of a bit difficult to really define. Anyway, this is a smell that is,
As you mentioned, banana. I can maybe just a slight banana flavor to it, but I think it's, for me at least, this artificial, like the pineapple juice.
pineapple aspect. Okay, yeah, pineapple juice.
Yeah, that's very, very intense. I don't really like that type of type of juice, so it's really, really intense.
Fair enough. It's not something. It's not a smell that you get with any particular grape variety. So it's not produced by the grape. This is fully produced by yeast, and you only get it.
So specific strains of yeast.
Exactly. There's certain strains that are known to produce high levels of what are called esters. And esters is like a family of compounds. This particular one is called ethyl hexanoate. And esters, you barely get them in grapes, so it's mostly produced by yeast. And I would call this, like, you could consider this an engineered flavor, because you need to like press certain buttons as a winemaker and then you get this aroma. And how to do it is use a high ester yeast strain, ferment at a very low temperature, and work with very clear juice. So white wine fermentation temperatures between 12 and 22 degrees Celsius. If you ferment at 12, so the very low limit, then yeast will produce more of this smell. And then also if you clarify before fermentation, so if you work with very clear juice, then you get higher levels of this.
Can natural yeast strains produce this, or only selected yeast?
You could get it, like all yeast will produce this to some extent. But then there's certain strains that are selected that are produced at higher levels. Oops, sorry.
Okay.
But in terms of wine styles, you get it in bulk wine. So if you produce wine at very high volumes, you typically get very dilute juice, dilute flavors. But then if you ferment at a very low temperature, you get at least some fruitiness, but it's like kind of synthetic and artificial like this.
Yeah. It kind of smells like cheap, simple.
Like a cheap Pinot Grigio, for example, or cheap Falangina, or like there's those certain grape varieties that are just grown at colossal volumes, colossal yields, and then often this is used as a trick. So fermenting at a low temperature.
Very interesting, very intense. Should we mix these two? It would be an abomination.
Yeah, I've actually never done that because they've like really different origins, so I don't really see them together, but why not? Let's try it.
See what happens.
Yeah. Okay, it's just artificial. Kind of like bubble gum.
Yeah, it's like some type of candy, but interestingly for me, the intensity like decreased. Probably they are like balancing out each other. Each on its own was like a very, very intense, but now it's like a still quite intense, but like a mix, not that interesting. I was expecting it to be like a huge explosion of of artificial flavors, but it's a bit muted. Interesting. Okay, so 7, 8.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's add 7.
Yeah, 7 and 8.
This one has a little white, like deposit or something.
Oh yeah, there's probably some deposit in there, which is intentional. It's actually a stabilizing agent. It's not the actual compound itself.
Okay, should I mix it?
Yeah, if you mix it, you can even like pull up the liquid up and down a few times, and then you can add it,
Okay.
and it should dissolve in a glass.
Is it hard to ship these? I saw in the document which was in the box, all the explanations that it's not a drug, it's not it's food grade. Are the customs having questions of these little vials, or is it okay?
It has happened occasionally, but yeah, I've never had to hand them in or anything. If it's just, I would just say like, I think I've been stopped by customs once in Panama, and then I explained these are aromas, and they were like, okay, sure, you can pass on. Yeah. But with shipping, well, like the European Union it's easy because there's no customs. Outside the European Union, I've not had issues because you can, if you provide enough details, like this is the commodity number, there's like this specific numbers that they can tell what kind of product it is, then custom typically clears really, really fast, and I've not had problems with it.
Oh, that's good. Do you need like different commodity numbers for each compound or for the type of product?
No, it's just like if you ship a flavoring solution, which this is, so it's like a flavor compound dissolved in a solvent, it's just the same number. In the past, I've had some more difficulty with shipping wine samples. So what I've done before, rather than just shipping the aromas, I would pre-add them to a wine, and then I'd ship the wine. Which, like, especially if you send it to you can't send to the US because of the 3-tier system. So you need like an importer. So I wasn't able to do that. But now that it's just flavoring, it's better.
Isn't there like a solution to sell it not as wine or alcohol, but like an educational like sample or something like that? Isn't there like a solution?
I thought about it, but yeah, it's tricky because it still contains alcohol. So and I mean the idea behind it is probably to limit drinking. So
Yeah. I mean, this one is a lot more straightforward and easier, so it makes sense that.
yeah, it takes up less shipping space, and like in most respects, this is better. Yeah, it's just a slightly larger upfront cost. So I still ship wine samples within the EU because it's a little bit cheaper for people to purchase. Like the whole box that you've received is a higher upfront cost. But if that's not an issue for the user, then this is way better.
I see. So with the wine samples, there is less aroma solution involved.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, you would receive just like this amount of wine, so 50 milliliters in a small vial, and then I've just dropped one pipette full of aroma into the wine. So it's less flavoring, so therefore less costly.
So it's like this one is 15 times more. This one. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely.
okay. Well, for me, I think this is probably the least intensive. Very hard to pick up. Let me compare it to the reference. Okay.
Have you tried it on the palate?
No, not yet. Kind of struggling, but I would say this one is a bit more like this lactic, creamier aromas.
Well, perfect, because this is called diacetyl and is produced during malolactic fermentation, and it's like buttery, creamy, yogurt-like. Yeah.
I'm surprised. Usually I pick up this smell, but maybe I put too little. Maybe I didn't empty the full pipette, but it's very, very light for me.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I find it easier to pick it up on the palate as well. It's almost like my mouth is coated with something that's like oily, slick, viscous. I think that's what the aroma does as well.
Yeah.
What about number 8?
Okay, this one is a lot more simple. It's vanilla.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's vanilla. Yeah. So
Yeah, this is pretty straightforward.
yeah, we have two compounds that you often see together. So
Okay.
on the left is the butter aroma from malolactic fermentation. Then on the right is the vanilla aroma from oak aging. Now in white wines, the variety that comes to mind is Chardonnay because it just lends itself really well to those winemaking techniques. So these are both secondary flavors.
With the vanilla flavor, what do you think about the different oak styles? Which type of oak brings it out more?
Um, so like oak itself doesn't really smell of vanilla, but it's the toasting process in the making of barrels that generates the vanilla smell. So that is also the main factor. Like the higher toast you apply to your barrels, the greater the vanilla levels. And then there's a few obvious factors such as if you age for a longer time, you get more vanilla. If you use smaller barrels, get more vanilla, and then new oak compared with old oak is also more vanilla. So those would be the more main driving factors.
Okay.
And then often in those wines, malolactic fermentation is also encouraged. So in some varieties you would block it. Like you don't really see butter aromas in like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Riesling, for example. But in Chardonnay you might encourage it. You can even add a culture of bacteria to make sure that it's done.
To yeah.
Yeah.
This vanilla compound version is again so intense for me. I never experienced such a wine with this high amount of vanilla flavor.
Fair enough. Yeah, and you will see it in wines that have a bit more intensity by themselves. So, like wines that have the concentration that they can actually handle oak aging.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there a difference between the original vanilla, like the sticks, and the vanilla powder that is used for cooking?
Um, as far as vanilla cooking,
Like there is this powder that is used in the.
I guess it depends a little bit on the how the powder is made. You could get like maybe in the more expensive versions, you could get the extract from the vanilla sticks. Um, in this case, the compound that I've added is vanillin, and so that is responsible for vanilla aromas in oak aging. It is also present in actual vanilla, so in the vanilla sticks, but the vanilla sticks contain compounds beyond vanillin, so they'll have additional compounds, even though this one is the main one. And with like vanilla flavoring formulations, it is either going to be um, like extract from vanilla sticks or vanillin, so the compound, but more likely it is going to be a combination of compounds. So if they choose the artificial way, they will use vanillin and some related compounds, and they blend them together to create a vanilla flavor.
Okay, for me this reminds me more of that artificial style, like the vanilla powder, less the vanilla sticks. That's why I was asking that. Very interesting. Should we mix? Create a California Chardonnay?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty nice. It's a better blend than the previous one.
Okay, yeah, nice. Yeah, exactly. It's very much like this rich buttery style Chardonnay, right? That you, I mean, it's like a cliche California Chardonnay example. Like these days, you also get much like fresher styles and um, more minimalistic.
but these butter bombs still exist.
Okay, so the last two, 9 and 10. Let's see. This is fun.
Yeah. Makes you feel like you're an alchemist, right? Making those flavor additions.
Yeah. And this is the best way to like experiment with flavors. In the university, we also had like few classes, not enough, but a few like these aroma tests. But it was usually like with those aroma papers. It's not the ideal experience. This is the perfect way. In the wine,
Remind me what you studied?
enology and then winery management. Enology in Kolozsvár in Transylvania, and then I had 1 semester in Bordeaux, vineyard and winery management. We had even in Bordeaux a few like these aroma classes, but just a few wasn't enough. I think this approach should be standardized.
Okay. Did they use wines with added compounds or no?
No.
Okay. I mean, I'll contact them. I will tell them what I can.
You should have a contract with all the universities. We had like at the bachelor's degree, we had a few experiments with like not aroma compounds but different acidity levels, sugar levels, tasting water samples with them to pick up the different levels and acetic acid, but not like this level of compounds and all the different ones. I think this is great.
Okay. Oh, good. Yeah. Great to have that confirmation.
Yeah.
This is my favorite.
The 9. Okay. This is also
Or are you struggling?
a bit. It's quite niche aroma that I'm picking up. Some like spicy. Some. I always have this descriptor. It's in my mind, and usually when I say this to people, not everybody gets it. But for me, maybe it's a very strong memory. But like an old furniture.
Okay, love it.
Maybe it's just for me like antique furniture. Maybe it's just a weird memory for me, but this type of like spice,
Any specific furniture?
specific like wood type, or a specific.
Amazing. Any like chair or table or or just like wooden furniture in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like cabinets.
Wooden cabinets. Amazing.
Yeah, some type of spice. I won't be able to some like something that could be added to mulled wine, like not cinnamon, but something along those lines.
I think you're very close. Maybe you're looking for the word cloves.
Oh yeah, cloves. Yeah.
Cloves, and I hear that most often. Cinnamon as well, and nutmeg.
Oh yeah.
So those would be the most like 3 most spicy names for this smell. And it's also an oak derived smell, so I think the wooden furniture is probably very correct because it would have been made out of wood, which potentially also has this smell.
Okay.
So that's a really nice observation. Something I might add to the descriptor bank for this one.
Yeah, cloves. when I smell cloves, I love this type of smell, but for us, I mean, maybe it's just our family, or I don't know. I wouldn't say like for the whole culture, but it's not very typical spice that we use. So
Okay.
for me, it's rare to experience cloves. So maybe that's why I can't really pick it up that easily. For cinnamon, it's not, for me it's not that similar to cinnamon. I can see it's that type of aroma, but not exactly cinnamon. And what was the third one that you mentioned? Clove, cinnamon, and
Nutmeg.
nutmeg. Yeah, that is also an aroma that is quite foreign for me. I know the spice, but very few dishes or desserts that we use it.
And maybe that's also why personally you have that wooden furniture association.
Yeah, makes sense.
If you're less familiar with the spices, yeah. Do you know what type of wood they use for furniture where you live? Like if it was oak furniture, that would make so much sense. But yeah.
Could be. I don't have like an exact memory of a specific cabinet.
Okay, yeah.
It's just like this vague like vibe that it smells like an old cabinet.
Fair enough. So very similar origins as the vanilla one that we had in the previous glass. So it's also an oak-derived aroma and flavor.
Okay.
There's a subtle difference in that depending on how intensely the cask is toasted, you're going to get a little bit of the cloves flavor in a medium toast cask. Yeah, and vanilla was more of a high toast cask. So these differences are subtle, but consistent.
What would you say, what are the aromas that are more on the lighter toast side?
You get most of the coconut smell with a light toast. So that is something you actually do get formed in wood, especially American oak. And then the lighter toast, you preserve it, and then with a high toast, you would actually remove that coconut smell. And also, usually the lighter toast or the medium toast are more popular for white wines. And then a high toast you would use for something like Cabernet Sauvignon, Zinfandel, Malbec, like those powerhouses. So cloves is certainly a flavor that you will want to look out for when you're tasting white wines and you're deciding whether it has seen oak or not. Then this is a really useful one.
Yeah, makes sense.
Ready for the final sample?
For the final sample. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's really intense. We are in Riesling land.
Yeah, and you've done a video on this one recently, right?
Yeah, it's not recently. The video is actually quite old, but it's pinned on our profile, so that's probably why you saw it. It's
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's why, yeah.
pretty old video, but yeah, that smells like TDN, some petrol station.
Amazing. You know the name of the compound. Well done. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I love it.
But also, I think petrol, the descriptor almost doesn't do justice to the smell, because I feel like this is actually a pretty nice smell. And personally, I'm not in so much a fan of the smell of like when I'm putting petrol in my car, but this smell for me is better than that. So it's like a specific aspect of the petrol smell, in my experience.
For me, it's a bit more like those lamps, the petrol lamps. Probably it's a different type of petrol that is used for that as for the cars. Me personally, I even enjoy the original petrol smell when you fill up your car, and this one as well. I really appreciate it.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, petrol lamps. I wonder if maybe they use kerosene for that, or I'm not 100% sure.
Not sure, me neither. But for me, it's a bit more on that side. Very cool.
Yeah, and so talking about the origins, it's you've already named Riesling, so that's the only white grape variety that can make this. So really uh, unique varietal flavor that doesn't straight away appear. So Riesling grapes don't smell of it, and like when you press the juice and you ferment, it still doesn't smell of the petrol. But you typically gonna need some time in bottle before it appears. So it's not only a varietal flavor, but it's also tertiary. So it means that it develops during bottle aging.
That's really interesting to have like this. Do we know any other aromas that are like come from a specific variety, but it's a tertiary, so it only develops after aging?
I'm afraid not. No. And maybe there's some anecdotes about that. So some varieties been known to develop like an almond smell, for example, with aging, and then they say, "Oh, you don't get it in others." But it nothing like has been established as well as this aroma. So we know the compound, we know the formation mechanisms. There's lots known about this TDN compound, so it's much better identified than any other potential aromas.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Wow, this is really interesting, really intense. I wish I would have a Riesling right now with such intensity.
Yeah, and then there's even normal Rieslings that can have even higher levels than this, and particularly so in the New World Rieslings. So over in Australia, you've got famous Rieslings from the Eden Valley and Clare Valley, and these in particular are associated with really high petrol levels, and also they appear really soon, really fast. So like only after a year or so in bottle, the Riesling would already smell like this.
Okay, what's the explanation?
So the main factor, the main driving factor is sunlight intensity during grape ripening. So um, which is interesting because so even though this is a tertiary flavor, so it develops during aging, what happens in the vineyard is already going to have an effect. The reason being that when grapes are exposed to sunlight, they will develop certain color pigments. And this is like a defensive mechanism of the plant, right? Much in the same way as humans make color pigments when they're exposed to lots of sunlight, so we become tanned. The color pigments, they don't contribute to smell or taste, but they can degrade, so they can break down over time. This is a fairly slow process, but the breakdown product is TDN. So the breakdown product of color pigments is the petrol smell.
So it comes from flavonoids, like flavonoid compounds.
More specifically, the carotenoids. So that's like another class of color pigments. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So over in Australia, those Riesling regions, they are in wine terms quite close to the equator. So if you're talking about latitude, then you're at like 34 degrees. And the closer you are to the equator, the greater the sunlight intensity is. And like a similar effect you see with altitude, right? And those Riesling grapes, they just receive that much more sunlight intensity. So they make more color pigments. So you will see the petrol flavor at higher levels and appearing sooner. Compare that with something like Alsace or Germany, you are at 49, 50 degrees latitude, so much further away from the equator. So lower sunlight intensities, lower color pigment formation, and lower levels of the petrol flavor. So generally speaking, there's a big difference in those regions.
Interesting. So basically, it could be a bit modified or like targeted to have like lower yield, better sun exposure for the vineyard, maybe like more leaf removal. Then you could try to increase this effect.
Yeah, exactly. I think in practical terms, people are usually more scared of too much petrol levels instead of trying to actively increase it. So it would probably more be the other way around. So they would make sure that around Veraison, for example, there's some leaf coverage, so that it's not just full sunlight exposure on the grapes. That will minimize this flavor. And I think especially like winemakers are just afraid that the petroflavor would just take over everything else in the wine, so that there's no more fruit, there's no more fermentation characteristics. So it's something they would seek balance of.
Yeah, especially in Australia.
Yeah, you will have to be careful. Yeah.
Okay, should we mix here as well?
I don't think you would ever see these two together because Riesling is never oak aged. But I mean, why not? Yeah. That smells kind of weird. I'm not gonna confuse my brain much further. I'm just gonna dump it.
Interestingly, here the cloves take over a bit. Interesting combinations. Well, that was fun. Thank you for this experience, for the course, for the tasting.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
It was fun.
We've tried them all.
Yeah. This is a great introduction to the aroma science. I would urge our viewers to check out your work, check out your tasting kits, and maybe even your courses. You are traveling the world, so where can our viewers find you?
So I have a website, artoftasting.nl, where I have listed my event schedule. So you can try to find if there is a nearby course. And there's also my online store, so where you can purchase these files that we've been using. So it's available on my online store. Then I have an Instagram channel. So if you search for Art of Tasting on Instagram, you'll find my channel where I make weekly posts and make weekly educative videos. So if you want, and everything is about flavor compounds. So it's a way to educate yourself even more.
Amazing. I will link all of those below the video. Thank you for watching, everyone, and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
See you later.